So if somebody has never come into contact with this before R.I.S E and they say, what does it do? What would you say?
I'd say we are a first stop for folks coming home from prison, county jails and prisons as well, to make sure that we help them develop a plan for sustainability, not to go back to prison. We offer a wealth of different services that do that, everything from GED training to community and personal responsibility classes. So we just try to get people on the right track and connect them to some of our partners that we know they'll need to sustain.
How much have people had before they come to you?
Depending on where they were. If folks who are coming to us from out-of-state facilities have had lots of programming. They've had a lot more time to do programming. Folks coming to us from the county, depending on how long they've been there, it will depend on how much training or vocational education that they've had. So it varies.
How long have you been here?
Going on 4 months.
And what made you want to do this?
The scale and the opportunity of what I would be able to do. It's a city organization. It's run out of the mayor's office, which means every Philadelphian who's impacted by incarceration can come to this office for assistance. And the offices I've worked for previous were very specific to the population that they worked with. This is much more larger scale.
And how many years do you have in this sort of field?
20 plus.
So you've had time to see a lot of things.
Absolutely.
Does a program like this make a difference?
It does, if it's utilized, if it's resourced, if it's funded. It absolutely does. Word of mouth is everything. People need to know that we're here, they need to know what we do, and they need to believe that we can help.
Give me an example of something you've seen that you know this kind of office made a difference compared to what it would have been.
The partnerships and the connections that happen in the office. We have case management services that are maybe not as intensive as targeted case management, but it's the person who will call you and let you know what's going on, who will give you opportunities for job leads, who will check on you if they know that you've been going through a hard time. And that connection to a community, even if it's not your natural community, is needed. You know, you need that lifeline to somebody, and that's what we do here on a regular basis.
Is there somebody in particular you think of when you think of that's an example of how successful we can be?
Absolutely. There are guys particularly that come here. We struggle with our female population, which is something we're definitely trying to improve. But there are guys who will come here just to say thank you, just to say I got this job, but now I'm working on this job. So those relationships are really centered around the case management portion that we have.
How hard is it for somebody coming out of prison knowing that an employer is going to look down at that paper and see that? Explain to somebody who doesn't know what that's like.
It's comparative to coming home and just not having the lights on. You know, there's nothing there. There's no hope. And it's so powerful that people just don't even try. Mm-hmm. You know, if there's no opportunity there for them, they don't even try. And that's one thing that we really try to focus on here, is that everyone has to have an opportunity. And I know the city has done a lot with Ban a Box and, you know, moving the needle where that's concerned. But if people aren't going to change their mind, it doesn't matter if they throw the application out when they see the box not checked. If they're not going to give you a chance anyway, it's still a problem.
And how do you get businesses or companies to take that chance?
Conversations, trying to figure out what their risks are, what they're afraid of, and trying to ease them into this. I understand that it's difficult, you know, especially some of our big box stores. They simply have HR policies that impede them from hiring folks who are coming home from prison. But some of the smaller and mid-sized businesses, they're just afraid, and some of their fears can be easily squashed. There's data to show that folks returning home are much more loyal. They stay longer periods of time. They work harder sometimes than just folks that they hire. So education. And there are incentives, and so, you know, the city understands that sometimes we have to incentivize folks to do things that are risky, and, you know, the city has the prep tax in place to give credits for employers who hire. So there are a lot of things like that, but it really boils down to education and change in mentality.
Have you had companies come back to you and go, oh, that actually worked out pretty well?
Thank you, yes. But again, they're some of the smaller companies, so they're hiring maybe 1 or 2 people, and you know, we have such a large number of folks coming home. We really need a pipeline of companies and people that are willing to take that risk and that chance, because it's not really risky. It's not as risky as they think.
So then let's talk about the stereotypes, because if that's out there, you would think word of mouth, people would begin to hear that. But I promise you, if we go down there to Spring Garden and I say, would you hire somebody who's coming back? Oh, no.
Absolutely not.
People have this idea that, you know, you might as well just open the door to the hen house and say, Wolf, come in.
That's exactly right.
So why is there not a word of mouth opposite impression?
We're trying to fix that. We're trying to fix that. I think those who do hire, it's still taboo, and you know, so they're still doing something that some of their other business folks may not agree with, and so it's still the little thing in the closet that people are doing. And so we have to get some champions out there to really say, no, you know, this is working. You know, we have these people that we've hired, and they're some of our best employers. So we really need to get the employers on the front line with us to say that this is so.
And the other stereotype I would imagine for guys or women coming out is, why bother?
Why bother?
You know, you're going to just imagine 15 doors slamming in your face.
Right. And that's the hardest part, because they come here so defeated, and a lot of them are here because their parole officer sent them. This is actually a voluntary program, and so people come in and they kind of just sit there and they're like, why am I here? You know, what's going to happen? But then we get to show them different opportunities, and you kind of see the sparkle in their eyes come back, and it's like, maybe I can do this. But it's 15 doors, but then it's the 16th that opens. So it's a long process. It's not easy. We just got to keep at it, and we really have to get employers on board with this. We have to.
What difference does it make to the family as a whole when that person comes back and gets a job and has a schedule and a routine?
Everything. Being able to wake up every morning, go to work, and come back and know that you've provided in a way that are not going to have police knocking at your door that evening or that weekend means everything. It shows dedication and perseverance to children. You know, it shows security to moms and wives and aunts and uncles that you're taking care of. So it begins a cycle of realizing that work isn't a bad thing. You know, work is actually a pretty good thing. It can be suitable, it can be helpful, it can be sustainable. That's something, the idea of work just isn't something that some of our communities necessarily lean on as something that is a good thing. You know, people go to work and they come home with less money than they went to work with, or you're working for a minimum wage that only pays enough for you to get back and forth to work. That's not benefiting a family. That's not benefiting you. It's benefiting the employer. So at some point we really have to stop exploiting employees in general and really start working toward a living wage, so that work is looked at as something that is more than useful just to the employers.
What does it do for the person? Because I would imagine for whatever tough person exterior, underneath it all is somebody who feels some kind of way about themselves and where they are in society, what they've accomplished, what they won't accomplish. What does it do for them to go through this program and get that job?
I'm convinced that everybody wants to do very well. Everybody wants to be very good at what they do. And so, you know, nobody, you know, wants to just do something mediocre or do something midway. People want to achieve. They want to do well. They want to be recognized for what they do. So even coming here and sitting through a program and graduating, which may have been something that they've never done before, or completing a program, and I say to them, listen, you're ready for the next step, or our facilitator say, listen, you did a great job. I'd love for you to come back and speak to our next group. Those type of minor accomplishments means everything. It means I can do something more than I even assumed I could do, because this isn't the life they assumed that they would live. Many of them assumed that they would just be, you know, out in the street, and that's where they would live and that's where they would die. And to be opened up to something different, something new, is a life changer.
What do you say to people out there who, especially in this day and political age, are very harsh about certain parts of the population? I don't want to pay for those people. I don't want my money. Nothing's going to change. What do you say to that person?
You're paying already. You're already paying. You know, we have schools that are dilapidated. You know, we have taxes that are high. You know, we have people all over. So we're paying for this one way or another. You'd rather pay for folks to do good than for folks to do bad. And what if it were you? You know, what if it were you? What if it were your children? How hard would you want me to work to make sure that they didn't go back to prison, or that they got on the right path, or that they were given opportunities otherwise? And I think if we can continue on that path, what if it were I, or what if it were my children, those questions wouldn't come up.
How hard is it to fight recidivism? People hear the numbers and you wonder, what's that about?
Right.
Because, you know, on one hand you think, go to prison, who wants to do that?
That's
Why
right.
would you go back?
But
then you see a lot of people do.
Because you have to eat. You know, you have to eat, you have to feed your families, you have to find a way, and sometimes they don't have the opportunities or the wherewithal to do it any other way. And that's not an excuse for anybody, but when your stomach is grumbling and your children are crying and your house is falling and there's an eviction note on the door and you have no other way, you have no other opportunity, you turn to things like that, you know, and that's kind of the natural thing in all of our brains to do what we need to do. But sometimes what we were able to do is not within reach. Comes back to opportunity again. We have to be able to give them the opportunities to do all of those natural things in a way that won't land them back in prison. So I believe that falls back on us. It falls back on opportunity. It falls back on chances, second chances, third chances sometimes. But we really have to really stretch, you know, what we do and give it to those who need it most.
So what exactly are they learning here that they wouldn't have learned otherwise?
Self-endurance and being able to really look at themselves and say, I can do this another way. It may be hard, you know, and it won't be easy, but I can do this another way. And we give them skills to do that, whether it's interview skills, figuring out how to write a good resume that represents who they really are, being able to speak to the time where they were incarcerated in a way that does not monstrosize them, but gives them a chance to have learned and reflected and realized what they did wrong. So really giving them the tools that they need to go out and honestly face an employer, you know, and say, you know, I'm the best choice for this job. You know, you need me here as much as I want to be here.
How do you help them deal with the soft skill part, which is, it's one thing when you're here and with your other people who are doing this, it's another thing when you're back home in the streets and everybody else is doing something else and they're kind of like, hey.
That's right.
How do you help them say, no, I'm not going to get in the car. I'm not going to go with you through that door. I'm not going to.
One thing is our program is pretty lengthy. So we have them for a pretty long period of time. We have a 4-week program here, which is our major program, where we deal with everything from anger management to those situations. There's a program, Thinking for a Change, where we really try to get into people's minds. Where we want you to ask yourself a question at every turn, you know, what's A and what's option B? What can option A do? In a split second, people think, wow, that's a whole 10-minute conversation with yourself, but it's really not. Once you get used to it, it's, you know, should I cross on a red light or should I cross on a green light? So it's really just constant reinforcement in that case management that's with them the entire step of the way. And we have to show them, if you choose option B, if you choose door B, this is what could happen. This is what can happen for you. It's a long road, it's hard, but you won't go back to prison.
How would you describe the city right now versus where it could be in 5 to 10 years if this program gets the funding and the support that it needs?
The city is doing a lot to stop folks from going into prison, you know, with the MacArthur grant and things like that. So I think that'll play a big role in the number of folks coming out. But if the city really buys into the idea of stopping recidivism, I think we'll have less folks in prison. We'll have more champions around this. Employers will be more willing to hire because it will become the city thing to do. So there'll be more jobs out there. And I think that the term opportunity will not just apply to people coming home, but to people before they even go to prison. So if we can expand this term, what opportunity means and how important that is in someone's life, we can then flip it from opportunity for someone for a second chance to opportunity for high schoolers, you know, or for low-income neighborhoods, and to really be able to show what an opportunity or what a real honest chance would do.
How long does it usually take for most people to find a placement?
It varies depending on the skill level that they come. We have some folks who have college degrees, you know, have master's degrees, and of course they're easier to place as opposed to someone who has no job history at all. You know, that can take 8, 9, up to a year. Again, we're in a space where employers are not, they're the end all to this story. And if we can't open up some of those doors, then that time period will just get longer and longer.
And I guess you see some of the societal gaps, like if a kid didn't grow up in a place where they learned to get up on time or deal with conflict or stick to it, you got to build that from the ground up.
You have to build that, and you know, we touch on all of those things in our life skills class, and we partner with agencies that do similar work. So that's the job readiness piece, you know, getting up, listening to an alarm clock, realizing how important it is to get somewhere on time and to not look disheveled and to look someone straight in the eye and to be honest about where you were and what time you'll get to work. Those are things we all take for granted, but you know, we can't hold them responsible if they've never been told. So we tell them, so therefore we can hold them responsible for at least that level of job readiness.
And once somebody comes out of this program and they get placed, are they still in touch with you?
Absolutely.
Or no, little chickadee?
No. We look to develop a core group of folks that we'll call ambassadors that just come back and talk to our classes, tell them that the experience is tough. It's hard, and you're going to get told no, and you're going to want to go back to the streets, or you're going to consider going back to jail, but that you just have to stay the course, and that's what we utilize our ambassadors for.
If somebody's watching this, give me some options on finding you.
Call me. We pick up that phone every time it rings. It's 215-683-3370. Email the city, call 311, we're listed there. I would love to tell you to go to our website, and you will be able to very shortly. We're at 990 Spring Garden on the 7th floor. We take walk-ins all day from 9 o'clock in the morning till 4:30 in the evening, Monday through Friday.
So you've been doing this for 20 years. I have to imagine it's not easy, and there are times when you get down and you think, there's got to be an easier way. There's something I could take this experience and do. And yet I'm sitting here and you exude warmth and optimism and confidence. how do you stay in this place after all the things I'm sure you've seen over those 20 years?
I've helped one person. I've helped 2 people. I know for a fact there are 5 people out there that will say, thank you, Ceciley, for what you did. You know, and that means everything to me. You know, I have a son, I have a daughter, I have cousins, I have friends who are in this system, and I wouldn't want what they're experiencing for anybody. And so somebody has to do this, and I love being the one to do it. It's what I was here for. It's what I'm here for.
They're lucky to have you.
Thank you. I'm lucky to be here.